G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and watching my content. It is 2024. This is the first news report of the year and we are less than 4 years away from the greatest sporting event in the world, Rugby World Cup, right here in the beautiful country of Australia. And oh boy, last week there was like pretty much no news. That was about 5 minutes of content. And this week we got a bit of a doozy in our hands. Right off the bat, 2024, first news report of the year for me. We delve into something pretty controversial this week. I guess last week, Sonny Bill Williams, he is a devoted Muslim, and he came out on social media last week, basically taking a stance on the Palestinian side of the Israeli invasion, I guess, or Israeli siege of the Gaza Strip, and he basically talked about a lot of the, I guess, propaganda from the Palestinian sides, and denounced a lot of the Israeli reports of Palestinian brutality in the initial, I guess, attack on Israel, and this has obviously divided the community a lot. A lot of people, here in Australia, it's Jewish. There's also a lot of Palestinian here in Australia. It's a multicultural country. And as if you're a private citizen, you can take whatever side you want. But I think he's such a big public figure, and he's come out and basically, especially like in areas where rugby is pretty prevalent, like where I live, it's a pretty Jewish strong communities. I'm not sure how his job gonna stand at Stan Sports going into next year. I love Sonny. I think he's a great commentator, but taking such a divisive stance on this sort of things, my stance on these sort of things, especially if you're like a public figure, you can believe whatever you want in your private life, but just don't come out and say it publicly. We might end up in a similar situation to Israel Folau, where there could be demands for his firing from Jewish communities who find his comments offensive, and might end up with another Israel Folau situation where he it is another very, very controversial and tough place to be in. Once again, at the kind of like involved in Rugby Australia, and again involved in a very, very talented, very, very top, and a very, very well respected the rugby player, I guess this time former rugby player. So we shall see how this how this goes. In the coming times, whether it's gonna have anything, how this gonna carry out going into Super Rugby season, and his role as commentary for Stan Sports. Speaking of the All Blacks, the mighty All Blacks across the ponds have had their, I guess, initial training camp with Razor Robertson. He invited, I guess, 20 players, I think it was. 22 players to attend the camp, the initial All Blacks camp, and during the camp, the biggest missing, names were Sam Can and Adi Xavier, who were both captains / vice captain and co-captain, whatever you call it, during the Ian Foster era. So a big discussion is who's gonna be the new captain of the All Blacks, and finally, my dream has come true, and I think finally, the most deserving All Blacks captain is going to be Scotty Barrett. Okay, I've been calling for him to be the captain 4 years ago, and now finally we're going to happen. The sign, the writings on the wall, the pathway has finally been cleared. Ian Foster's cronyism is finally gone, and Scotty Barrett, can't wait. And yes, big speculation is that Scotty Barrett, because obviously Scotty was the Crusaders captain under Scott Robertson, and Scotty is a very, very good captain as well. Remember when they had captain's challenge, and Scotty Barrett just wouldn't shut up because he just wants to squeeze every bit of rule out of the book, every bit of law out of the referee, every bit of advantage out of the referee, just showing that how much how good he is at the rugby knowledge as well. And I think Scotty Barrett, with a leadership role on his shoulders, he plays better as well. He's just and he can finally go to the Barrett family, to his dad, and tell and finally show off his brothers that he is the best Barrett in the family at the dinner table. at the Christmas dinner table, right? And the one thing that Razor kind of talked about, Scott Robertson, Razor talked about out from the camp is he has basically meetings with New Zealand Rugby and urged them to keep the overseas eligibility open as an opening option for him. This is not an option available previously to any All Blacks coach. You have to be contracted to New Zealand Rugby to be eligible to play for the All Blacks. It doesn't matter if you it's not. There's no Giddo's law here for New Zealand, and it's quite surprising that Scott Robertson wants that opened up for him, especially when I think one of the initial hiring premises for Scott Robertson is for grassroots development, how well he's done with the Crusaders, uncovering talents like Richie Mo'unga, uncovering developing new talents like Will Jordan, getting them through the system, winning championships with with these new talents. I think one of the main reasons that New Zealand Rugby hired him is for him to continue to discover those talents, to develop those talents going into the All Blacks fold, and for him to ask that eligibility rule to open up is just really a backward step, something that I think in New Zealand Rugby it definitely did not hire him to do. It's kind of like hiring someone to clean the toilet and then only to have the toilet cleaner say that, hey, maybe you should just change the toilet instead, and so I don't have to clean it, right? Like, it's kind of like defeats the purpose of hiring the person, and defeats I think one of the key talent that Razor has is taking nobodies and putting them into a team and making them into somebody. I think that's his biggest talent. He's done with Crusaders, especially last year. I thought it was so impressive. He took a Crusaders team that had like 2 All Blacks players due to injuries and availabilities and whatnot, and it still took that team to flogging competitions at the semi-final, at the quarterfinal, and eventually winning against an almost undefeated Chiefs team in the finals away. It was just an absolutely. That's how good Scott Robertson actually is, and I think that New Zealand Rugby would be very, very unlikely to offer him an easy way out to have him select players from overseas. Yeah, so that's an interesting discussion there to be looked at that. And obviously the most coveted black jersey on the market and is the tight head number 3 jersey, right? But the second, I guess you can say, most important jersey on the field for the All Blacks is the number 10 jersey. And there's heavy contentions for the number 10 jerseys throughout the years. And with Richie Mo'unga that now in Japan and not eligible to play, finally the door has been opened for D-Mac, the man who has been so good for Super Rugby. But I think D-Mac just hasn't quite given enough time to develop that high pressure situation in bigger matches. He just looked flat, to be honest, when he plays under high pressure, but he looks so good when the pressure is lifted. When he's playing Super Rugby, he's just unbelievable to watch. He puts a smile on my face. Every time he smiles, I smile. So yeah, I love D-Mac. So, and I think that this will finally be an opportunity for him if he can somehow, put Beauden Barrett out of the reach, because Beauden has to resign with the Blues for another 4 years, and Beauden will be definitely. It's also Beauden's dream to be that number 10 jersey going into the Rugby World Cup as well. He missed out 2 World Cups now where he should be the prominent number 10. 8 years, man, not be able to play in the position that he wanted to play at the Rugby World Cup level. Been relegated to 15 jersey. So yeah, there's a heavy competition for the number 10 jersey out of the All Blacks camp. There is being finally, we're going to be seeing just how good the Japanese Jokers are. There's going to be 4 matches played between the Japanese teams and 2 Super Rugby franchises. So coming up in next month, actually. So there's going to be the Tokyo Sun Goliath, Santori Sun Goliath will be playing against the Blues. On the same week, the Chiefs will be playing the Panasonic Wild Knights. I know the Wild Knights has Damien Delinda, and I think the Sun Goliath has the Wallabies, I think. Or maybe, was it Wild Knights has Wallabies? But I think Bernard Foley is Sun Goliath, and what's his name? I think Malcolm Marx is injured now, right? So, some pretty big names in these 2 teams. And then the next week, it'll be Kubota Spears will be playing against the Chiefs, and Yokohama Cannon Eagles will be playing against the Blues next week. So there's 2 massive weekends for rugby. We'll see. There's been like questions been floating around for years now that just exactly how good the Japanese one league teams are. Are they actually good enough to play against Super Rugby teams? We'll finally get the answer. We'll finally see whether or not Japanese League One is legit or is a massive waste of money for sure. And we're gonna see exactly how this goes. And I'm very keen to see how the game is gonna turn out. Moving to England now. Big news came out of England. Owen Farrell. There's some rumors swirling reported in the French news that Owen Farrell initially was reported that he had signed a 2-year deal with his former coach at Rugby 92, Stuart Lancaster. Right, it was reported that he was going to Rugby 92 with his former coach Stuart Lancaster, but then the report has been like amended that he wasn't signed, but he's very close to signing with a 2-year deal with the top 14 club, Rugby 92. And this has led to a lot of talks. Just kids sending messages to Owen, "Oh, please don't leave." There's discussions that how England Rugby should have done more to try to keep him. What is going on? And then the club itself has to come out and say that we have no contract signed with Owen Farrell yet, to kind of like calm the media down a little bit. See, Borthwick came out and said basically it's up to Owen to decide. It's not his decision. And there's a massive go around in the English media about the availability of Owen Farrell. Essentially, if he signs to the French, he was not going to be available. He's already taken a sabbatical, so he's not playing Six Nations this year. So if he's actually signed with the French team, he won't be available to play in November Test series as well, and further on in Six Nations for 2 years. So that's a big loss for England Rugby. He's the most highest scored player in England Rugby, and he's despite no matter what people say, he's still his experience, his skill, his talent, just having the presence, having that experience in the team, definitely is a beneficial factor for the England Rugby as well. Massive loss if this deal to go through. With that being said, there's a lot of English players looking at jumping overseas. We've already seen a few players leaving. I think Joey Merchant is one of the ones I felt like should a big loss for England. I think he's gone. Yeah, he's definitely. Yeah, I think Joey Merchant is one of the big ones. I thought he was such a promising talent in the future. But Johnny Hill, the hair puller, the hair puller, he's going to be reported to go into Lyon by the end of the following the next season, leaving Sales. And then also Courtney Laws, he's already retired from international Test rugby, so he won't be playing for England anyway. But he's still interested to play for the British and Irish Lions. There was some talks that he might be going overseas as well by the end of this season. There was initially talks about that he was going to Toulouse, I think it was Toulouse or one of the teams. But then the club came out and said no. And then he's been spotted visiting Province Rugby, scouting out the facilities there. So yeah, Courtney Laws might be leaving as well. So England Rugby is making, a move to try to calm players down a little bit in that regards, to try to keep them, within the system a little bit, within the system as well. Obviously, I think end of last year, a couple of weeks ago, England Rugby came out with plans to kind of bolster the B division by having the A division, by restricting the number of players is allowed in a squad in the A division in the Premiership. And that has led to a lot of backlash. And obviously the biggest change that is going to get pushed through is they're going to be handing out players extra money for being selected in the England team, which will allow the England team to have more control and more say of how the player is being used at the club level. And Steve Borthwick has come out and given a bit more detail on how this is going to work last week. So up to 25 contract will be issued to England to players, and it will be worth £150,000 a year, ranging from 1 to 3 years. So they're basically going to lock down a player to stay in England for England Rugby, and obviously stay in England club as well. And this is given in advance to the players, as opposed to post match fees given to players after playing. And is hoping that this will be incentivize players to be locked down to be England. In addition to that, Steve Borthwick, the head coach, will have a say in the players' conditioning and medical programs, and I'm pretty sure that he also has a say on which position the players will be playing in the club level. So if he wants, Owen Farrell to be at 12, he will be able to, tell Saracen to put Owen Farrell at 12, for example, right? And that's just, something that they're trying to, both getting the players to lock down to England rugby for longer times, and also just give security, and also just, give the England rugby a bit more alignment of how they want to go in the future and a higher level. Speaking of the Six Nations coming up, England rugby is facing an injury crisis in the loose hip proposition. Joe Mala is the latest one, looking to potentially have an arm injury. It'll be looked at by a specialist. This is followed, Bevan Rod has been injured. Marco Vinopola has been issued a suspension, but he will be available to play. So the England rugby losing probably looking a little bit scary. As I already mentioned, Marco Vinopola getting a 4-week ban is probably the best thing that could happen for England rugby, because if he plays 4 more weeks and gets injured, that'll be an absolute disaster for England rugby in the Six Nations campaign without a prominent loose hip prop in going into the Six Nations. So Vinopola being sidelined for 4 weeks is probably something that Borthwick has been very grateful to see. One of the rare occasions. So going to Scotland now, Ollie Smith has been ruled out of the Six Nations due to a knee injury. And moving on to South Africa. So the URC in South Africa over the holiday period. I mean, last week saw the biggest crowd attendance for the weekend, over two. This was a record attendance over 2 derbies. 135,747 people attended, beating the previous record of 123,207 people. I mean, that is some big turnouts in rugby matches, and something that Super Rugby can only dream of. If you can only dream of getting half of this number. I mean, this is between two games, I think. But anyway, we can only dream to get this sort of number for the Bellers Cup one day. And with that being said, the Cats have somehow beaten the Sharks 20 points to 18. So anyway, more news from, I guess this is Irish news as well, transitioning. John Klein has been ruled out due to an injury for the rest of the season, to an eye injury. He's going to be looking at potentially going surgery for an eye injury, and this will be a massive hit to Munster. The Munster's losing out on one of their big imports, big World Cup winning experienced players. More in Ireland as well. Joey Carberry, the succession plan for Johnny Sexton, looking like he was going to be the one that's going to take over the 10 jersey going forward for maybe in 2022. And that position has really, due to his own injuries, has really just gone out of the window for him, and he's just being left by the wayside. Now the premier selection is probably the Munster kid. What's his name? And then this other kid, Ross Byrne. Who's the Munster kid? Anyway, so I can never remember people's names when I'm recording. So as soon as I turn on the recording, I'll remember his name. But so Joey Carberry has been left out. The curb is currently looking at a move to the top 14 for a bit more money, I guess, at the Bordeaux Bagels. So yeah. Next up, the Irish wing position is struggling with injuries a little bit. Mac Hansen has become the latest player injured with a dislocated shoulder, and the Jimmy O'Brien's also injured, so there's a bit of ongoing issue with James Ryan. So yeah, Andy Farrell will be announcing a team next week for the Six Nations campaign, but I guess Scottsdale will be back for the fall due to injuries, but I don't think this is going to be too much of an issue for the wingers. But yeah, couple of James Ryan's not a winger, obviously. James Lowe is the winger, but yeah, the Mac Hansen is a big loss for Andy Farrell and his plans for the Six Nations. So yeah, Scottsdale will be back. So that's a pretty exciting return for the Irish team. And Wales have missed out another big big prospect. Emmanuel Fei-Waboso is he's a Welsh-born, English eligible player, and he's decided to declare his allegiance for England. So yeah, whilst obviously also struggling with a lot of financial issues themselves, not able to maintain their own talents as well. A lot of the talents going overseas, going to play in France, and yeah, Warren Gallen is again hamstrung going into the next couple of years, building to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. And finally, Dupont has attended his first training session with the Sevens team, and who cares? Anyway, that's the news for, I guess, the last 2 weeks. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who supports me with your donations. And thanks everyone for your comments as well. And I will be... I don't know what I'll be doing. But yes, stay tuned for more content. We'll see what happens. I am quite a bit burned out from the last 4 years. But I'll slowly build back into it. Thanks for being patient with me. Thanks for sticking around. And we'll see. Super Rugby will be happening in less than a month now. And we'll obviously have the Japanese Super Rugby team competition coming up. So we'll be looking forward to that. And thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next week. And have a good week. Cheers.